Claudio Descalzi, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
I want to kick off by getting your assessment of what's happening in energy markets today.
Energy markets. So what is happening, I don't really know I understand, because it's happening every day, something new, and it's very volatile. What we know that from a physical point of view, we have a demand that is increasing, not at the pace that we thought. So when we talk about price, we have to consider clearly the basics, so the demand and the supply. And what we see that demand is growing. At the moment, we are about 103 million barrels per day of demand, and in 2025, 104 million barrels per day. So the demand is there, and the supply in terms of investment for the upstream, we are approaching again $80 per barrel, and that unfortunately because of what is happening in the Middle East. So the market is not really, we cannot really forecast or foresee what is happening. Also the forward curves are changing every day based on the actual price. So I think in any case that the demand is there. So if you look at the demand, maybe it's not impacting the short term, but the medium long term for sure is there, and is not changing. The demography is there as well. And if you consider that in the last 20 years, the demand increase of 50% is huge, and is still on average based on more than 80% on fossil fuels, where coal is still the first in electricity production. Though, so that element are very strong and are there, and for sure the demography and the new consumption of artificial intelligence or big data center that consume a lot. As you know, as a reference, Google and Microsoft consume in 2023 more than Nigeria is a country of 70, 80 million people. So this new component is going to impact the market and the energy consumption.
Do you think it's possible we'll see $100 oil before the end of the year?
No, I don't think so, because we are still in a situation where it's not clear what's going to happen with the central banks in Europe in terms of reduction of interest. We saw in the US 50 basis point is huge, so a huge reduction. But I think that we have to understand how the growth is going to happen in China, because China in any case represents 25% of the consumption overall, with India as well. But China is an essential component in the industrial and infrastructure, because they have this possibility to use coal in electricity that we don't see, but it's reduced the gas consumption. But in any case, China is increasing coal consumption, that is sure, with new power plant, but also gas is increasing, not as expected, because the growth rate is lower than before, but still the highest.
How dangerous is it, in your mind, when the US president is speculating on the bombing of what could potentially be as much as 3% of the global oil market? And I'm talking about Iran's facilities.
That is dangerous not just for the price. This is dangerous for a worldwide war. So it's dangerous. I don't know. I don't want to enter in a political decision, because it's not my area of competence. I just can't see the result of that. That is a clear, strong statement, strong event. And we see their action was not so strong from a price point of view, because if you pass from 74 to 79, $8, that means that, okay, there is some fears. And you know, they use also algorithms, so these kind of sentences can create in the algorithm the feeling to buy, because
the electronic.
Yeah, algorithm, yes, electronic trading. But that means, so just few dollars means that at the end of the day, the market at the moment does believe that that can happen. That is my feeling. Clearly, there is we have to see now what is happening, not from from this war point of view, but in the market, because we have to understand if this kind of growth continues. If this kind of growth continues, not just because of that, but because of what we said before, there is an imbalance between, from a physical point of view, between supply and demand. But clearly, this kind of sentences, sometimes they create a down in the price, sometimes a high in the price. Clearly, a sentence or a possibility to attack all the Iranian production center for oil and gas clearly is a big statement and create this kind of reaction. But it's punctual. We have to understand if there is different trend, as I said before, trends are not linked to sentences that at the end of the day are words, but real fact, so industrial fact.
Walk me through something you mentioned earlier, which is artificial intelligence and the impact that's going to have on energy markets. Do you think that governments have an understanding of just how much energy that kind of technology is going to take?
I don't think so. Now there are, at least in Europe, when we talk about institutions talk about artificial intelligence, they talk more about how to regulate it, which kind of policy, which kind of consequences. The energy aspect is not really being touched, and that is a big point, because that is going to, they need a huge amount of energy, but also the new energy vector like green hydrogen, a lot of energy, a lot of water, a lot of renewables, and the growth rate of renewables now is not enough for civilian, for population, for society. If you add these kind of new energy vectors and all the new data center and the artificial intelligence and the quantum computing,
yeah,
that is something that is happening, is going to happen in a large scale. So all these additional energy we need, I think that are not really considered, especially because if you say that the transition is just renewables, that is one component. Absolutely, it's very important. We are, as a company in Eni, we invested a lot, but if you say just renewable, you see that the growth rate is not there, you continue to insist, that means they are not considering at large what is happening from the industrial point of view.
Yeah. Does this, in your mind, equate a situation where the government, the regulators, aren't factoring in what's going to be necessary going forward to support this industry and to support this transition? Because essentially what they're saying is they're trying to continue on one path, but they're not factoring in how quickly artificial intelligence is going to change the game when it comes to the energy needs.
I think that, you know, this kind of problem are going to happen also without artificial intelligence, without big data center, without the need, just the need of the growing population is just enough to create a big hurdle to this kind of mentality. One is the growing population. Secondly, the fiscal margin that all these countries, also the US, but US is growing, Europe is not growing, it's flat, it's stable. So for new energy, for new vectors, for new solutions, new infrastructure, you need a lot of money. And if you're not looking for the economics or the competitiveness, you need to subsidy everything. It's not possible. It's not possible. That is not factoring. Also, without considering the new sink of energy that we are going to have in the future, I think that this kind of attitude where you think that you can introduce with a clean exit or with a clean exit of the past, a new energy, is anachronistic, because what happened in the last 150 years, for coal it took 60 years to reach more or less 50%. Gas in 80 years reached 23%. Oil reached in the same period, 60, 70 years, 40% of the market. So, and it's been bottom up. So, and they has been adding new energy to the previous one without replacing. There is no one energy that has been able to replace the old one. Now, after all this time, with all the infrastructure, habits that has been created by our society, now we have the necessity, I think, because I believe in climate change, I believe that we have to be clean, but I believe also that we have to be clean in a sustainable way, that it means competitiveness, selection of the right technology, considering the cost and considering also the demand. Because all this revolution that has been made by policy, especially policy, never consider the demand. They just consider the supply. Now, I think that everybody is realizing, and has been too dogmatic. And like a faith, like a party, so we are green. Green means industry, means investment, means competencies, means understanding what is the impact for the society. So,
and there's a disconnect in your mind between what's really happening and what people want to happen.
It's disconnected because it became like a political party, like an ideology. You know, when a technology became an ideology, it's not correct. Technology is technology. It's a tool that must give a service to people for their welfare. So I think that without going back to the demand, also without artificial intelligence and all the other IT and development of new vectors, and that we are in a situation where we are in a cul-de-sac. We are in a situation we don't have enough money to follow our dreams. That is a monodimensional dream. There is no the other dimensions, and is a point. And when the point is too small, and it's not easy to achieve.
When I speak to European ministers, most recently in Warsaw, there was a very big conversation revolving around a centralized European energy market. How do you react to that as an industry expert? Is it possible?
I don't know if it's impossible. Is it possible? I don't think that is the only solution or the right solution for Europe. If you think that Europe, so when we do that, we think at competition with the US and China. First of all, when we compare Europe with China and in the US, Europe is not a country. China is a country. They speak the same language, more or less, but they speak Chinese. In the US, they speak Americans or English. In Europe, we have different languages. We have different culture. We have different history. We have different energy mix. That is not negligible. Different infrastructure. A single market means that you have to connect not just rules, that is in policy, that is important, but also infrastructure, pipes, and have the same price for storage, for transportation, for everything. And that is led by private company, yes. And if the economic conditions are not correct for a private company, the private company change and goes somewhere else.
Right.
So I think that you have to consider all this. Single market is part of the solution. But if you have a single market and you don't have energy, and you pay energy 3 or 4 or 5 times more than the US and 2 times more than China.
So it's not the answer to bringing prices down.
You can reduce the price, but on the price is 3 or 4 or 5 times. Because you don't have the energy, you buy energy outside. You can reduce of 10%, 20%, but remain 2 times, 3 times, in any case more. So it's part of the solution, but it's not the center of the solution.
Yeah. A few years ago, after the invasion of Ukraine, you and I were discussing this. Would we see Russian energy back in the European market? Obviously, the war is still ongoing. In your mind, is Russian energy going to be part of Europe's energy mix in the future?
So I told you again that it's not easy for Russian to go back. Also, if Russian is delivering a lot of gas through pipe, at least, I don't know for how long, because they have to renew. I don't think that is possible, the contract with Ukraine for the pipeline. But LNG is there, at least 20 or more than 20 billion cubic meter per year. So Russia is still giving some gas to Europe. That is, we have to keep in mind that. I don't think that they can go back to 150, 160 billion cubic meter like before, because market change, and now we buy from the US, we buy from Africa, we buy from Middle East. Investment has been made to feed this gap of gas. So I don't think that if they come back, they can be like before, because there is no space anymore. And we are changing slowly, but we are changing habits and the source of energy. Different. Gas is there, still important, maybe more in other countries. Now the gas consumption in Europe is less than before. We were at more than 420 billion. Now we are 330, 340 billion. So there is something. And the market is occupied by other suppliers. And we are changing. Nuclear, for sure, is going to be a possible, maybe the only solution if you want to feed all the data centers, artificial intelligence, and the need of a growing population. So nuclear and renewables, the renewables are growing. I said that they are not enough, but they are growing. So I think that there is a replacement, a changing in the energy mix. Slowly, because we are not a country, as I said before, but different countries. But there is a change. So I don't think that we can go back to the previous situation. But there is no problem for Russian gas, because India and China and the Far East, for countries that don't have gas, is really, they express a big demand. And though I think that there is a shift that already started before 2014, also, and after the invasion of the Russian in Ukraine, the first phase. So I think that there is no problem for Russians to sell their gas, and they are selling also now. So
yeah. Do you believe that those who sit in Brussels or those who sit in Washington who think that at some point Europe will stop purchasing Russian energy, do you think that's a dream?
No, I don't think it's a dream. I think that is a long process, because as before, when we talk about energy transition, we don't think about the past, infrastructures and people and demand. Sanction is for today, but it's not. We cannot have a clean exit from the past. The past is there, very present, very strong, because it's been built in 2 centuries. So it's not something that we can avoid. Who is going to pay the cost is people. And people can pay the cost for a while, because they have wars. Then when they are not in a very good situation, they forget about war, and they say, I want to be like before. And there is no politician that can, do that without paying consequences at the election.
Yeah. Walk me through what's happening in Italy today with regards to higher energy prices. Electricity bills are the highest in Europe. Is there a way to change that?
There is a way to change that. That is a big question, also because we have to find a general consensus. As I said, we need more renewable, yes, but the efficiency of renewable are really marginal. 2,000 hours per year against 8,600 that we have available. We can reach with gas, for example, with a combined cycle, or coal. I don't like, but it's there, and it's still marginally there. To have a low price is not really, nuclear is a possible solution, but in Italy nuclear is very tough. And the composition of tariff, in the gas tariff, so what we pay, 34 or 36% is due to the raw material. The rest are cost or the system for renewables, for example, because we put in the tariff, or taxes. So we have some flexibility, I think, in this area. If we reduce our incentives of, generally speaking, and we don't charge it on the tariff, we can reduce the price. That is a possibility. Taxes, I don't know, because we have a high debt, so we need that. We need this kind of charges on the tariff. The only way is really to change the energy mix, and the Italian energy mix is based on renewable and gas. Renewable, also if you have a huge amount of renewables, they cannot deliver in a continuous way, so they need the backup, and the gas is the backup, so represent the marginal costs. So at the end of the day, who is making the price is gas, not renewables, and that is the big issue. And so the problem is not easy, especially also if we can identify the solution, for example, nuclear, before going through all the process to have a consensus, and then the industrial phase. It takes 10 years, 15 years. It's too much. So I think that gas is a solution, increase the quantity, and renewable is the solution. We have this kind of energy mix. And for nuclear, I think there is a strong sentiment to go back to nuclear, because we have 2 referendums, and the result was very clear: no nuclear in Italy. But I think that we have to increase renewable, yes. We have to increase wind power, and we have some problems, so offshore wind, onshore wind. But Italy is a wonderful country with a big history, tourism. We don't have a lot of space, a lot of mountains, so it's not easy also. There is no renewables, they need a lot of space. A lot of sun or wind we have in the south, but south we need the beauty of our lands and people with NIMBY, but a clear, understandable sentiment. They don't want this kind of infrastructure that they consume a lot of surface, and agriculture, tourism, landscape, wonderful landscape. So the situation is not easy. So at the end of the day, I think that gas is going to continue for sure, but we have to create a strong market, because when the supply is high, the price is down. That is clearly, but now we are still in a scarcity of gas. And then from a political point of view, we have to, I think that this government is understanding the need to reduce the cost of energy. There is a lot of focus, but the constraints are very high for Italy and for Europe, because it's true that we pay more than the other country in Europe, but Europe on average pay 3 or 4 times the US price. And US, they found, because before it was higher in the US, they found tight gas, shale oil, shale gas, and they give their responsibility to the price sector to develop it, yes, without constraints, and they create an economic advantage for the US now.
Yeah. At what point do you see pragmatism being forced on Europe? Because this situation is destroying Europe's competitiveness, no?
Yeah, sure. You know, pragmatism is a cultural thing, and Europe is not really based on pragmatism. Maybe in North of Europe, I don't know, but all the Latin countries, they prefer to talk. They talk very well. They are really clever, smart, and wonderful talk, and they develop and they elaborate. And we are not like UK and the US, where pragmatism is there, fortunately for you, as a cultural factor. You cannot become what you are not, and you never been. and we are poets, we are writers. In terms of poets and writers, we are romantic. We love life. I'm joking now. I think that that is what is happening in Europe. Policy and target come before the industrial action. So before something is born, you try to define everything for this, the path, which kind of technology, which kind of investment, all the rules. And you write thousands of pages. If you look norm policy in Europe and you compare with UK and the US, few statements, few pages, understandable and readable.
So it's over-regulation, essentially.
Over-regulation, but it's cultural, I think. It's cultural. To make over-regulation is the point, but it's coming from a background. So I think that is a big point. In China, extreme pragmatism, and top-down. The US, bottom-up, but with a very simple policy. In any case, if there is a new startup, a new business, a new technology, you wait that is growing, understand where the private sector can invest to grow it. In Europe it's different, unfortunately it's different, but that's it's cultural. So I don't think if at the end of the day we are going to have to become like the US or UK pragmatism view and attitude. I hope so. Yeah, I hope so, but I'm not sure.
So what happens to Europe if pragmatism doesn't prevail?
I think that at the end of the day we're going to change ourselves if there is some existential problem. I hope that is not too late, but I think
change at the ballot box, or
I think that if we are not changed, people are going to change us.
People are going to push back.
I think so. I say that is clear that we are in a democracy. The sense of democracy is very strong in Europe. So if you are not able to do the right stuff for people, people are going to change us. Us in terms of institution, political system. That is what is going to happen because we are in a democratic system, fortunately.
Do you see that happening sooner or later?
It depends on what is happening outside. If the situation of globalization is still compromised, really compromised, it will remain without the necessary stuff for our people. The US is not enough to supply everything, and we see also with the gas is not enough allies. And there is the hope that Africa can work with us, or we work with Africa in a different way with respect to the past. That is a territory, is people that need a lot. We need what they have, but they need our stuff. In the past, we are not able to cooperate in the right, I think, agreement because we took without giving, or not giving in the right way without giving development. We gave other stuff that at the end of the day didn't solve the problem of Africa, and we see very well. So Africa is a possible solution. Democracy, for sure, is a solution. But sometimes, before people understanding what is happening, maybe it's too late. I don't think there is never too late. But I think that there are possible solutions. Clearly, the strong alliance with the US is essential. Essential. The Atlantic alliance is essential. Working with Africa is essential. And increase the understanding of what is happening from our leadership is another strong point. I think that very soon is going to happen because the situation is very critical, and what is happening outside is oblige us to be cautious and about the situation. So,
yeah, talk to me about carbon capture, because we've been speaking so often about the transition and what's going to happen by 2050. How do you see the dynamic there between traditional sources of energy, fossil fuels, and carbon capture by 2050? Because there are a lot of reports that say different things.
Yeah, carbon capture is not an energy vector. is a tool, is a pragmatic tool. It's not by chance that happened in the US or UK first. Also in Italy now we have some breakthrough with small pilot project as Eni, because that is a is a way to be first of all to reduce emissions, keeping the installation, the infrastructure we are without new investment. So is a way to reduce emission without increasing the investment. And it's essential because you look at the demand. As I say, we have 3 points. We have to understand, give a priority to the best technology, considering the cost and considering the demand. CCS is considering cost, considering the demand, because we keep alive the existing infrastructure, and is applicable. There are different kind of CCS. In UK we are using depleted reservoir that to reduce cost and be faster, so the time to market is essential. So CCS is really a transitional tool.
It's not going to just be a panacea.
No.
It's not going to save the day.
There is no panacea. There is no a single solution. So there is no a clean exit means there is no a single solution. There are different kind of solution. This is to reduce the cost for the society. We talk about cost for the society. This reduce the cost of society and reduce emission. Give some life to chemicals that we need, for example, steel that we need. A lot of industry that are suffering a lot, and there is a carbon leakage, so these industries are moving, or as I said, we increase our percentage in the tertiary and we buy product from outside. That doesn't mean that we reduce emission. Europe has been very good in reducing emission. If you look at what happened, if you look at from 20 to 2000 and 2023, and you look at the emission against GDP.
Yes.
Worldwide, we had a reduction of 20% of energy intensity and emissions intensity. It's good. But the emission increase of 50%, what happened? The GDP worldwide tripled because of demography, because of industry, because of growth of China and the US. In Europe, we had if you look at the GDP, so energy intensity, emission intensity, against GDP, the reduction is more than double. So that means that we reduce emission. We reduce also energy intensity, but the GDP remained flat from 2008. For that reason, we have this strong. And that happened because the tertiary now, so what we buy outside, is reached more or less 70%. That means that we shift our emissions, our secondary industry, outside. So that is not a way to reduce emission, because there is a strong connection in the atmosphere. So you buy, and we passed from in 2000 we spent, or 2008 we spent 700 billion euro to buy a product from outside. Now is 2.5 trillion. That means that it's been a different kind of mix. The secondary and the primary, so agriculture, has been reduced. We buy from outside because of globalization. But when globalization is segmented or reduced because of geopolitics, Europe is in a big problem. We don't have our secondary and industry. So our capability to refine also the products, that mean that we occupy the last segment of the cycle. And the segment, and you are very weak when the globalization is not there.
So that lack of perhaps pragmatism on the part of European officials when they sit down and look at this situation and say, we want to get to our climate change goals, we want to get to zero carbon emissions, how much is that going to hurt the process? Because it seems as if there are too many regulations, but not the right ones.
The regulations are, I don't know if we can say there are too many, they are too complicated, and they are upfront. So they start before the game. And so at the end of the day, you have a single path, and for a private capital, you need different sensitivity to understand where you have to go in that direction, but with different kind of path. So I don't think that is the problem of regulation. Is a problem of view
or vision.
and vision is a problem of understand the long term. What happened in China, they work on a 30 years plan 30 years ago to understand about gas, oil, coal, critical minerals already 20 years ago. They don't have enough, so how they can provide the necessary tool and then create all the refinery system. The US the same, they had problem until 2007 for oil and gas, and all the private companies were outside to provide the right fuel to the US. Then when they discover at home, in the backyard, they come back. For sure, the US is less present from a geography or geopolitical point of view because they need less than before. And we see the US company or the US in general, as you know, less present outside. So I think that energy is moving everything, but to move everything in a clever, smart way, you need to look 10, 20, 30 years in advance. That didn't happen. Europe, I'm European, so I can talk about ourselves, didn't have an energy security plan before, a strong one, built, and you have to, when you have a plan, you have to also to put in action this plan until the war, Russia invasion of Ukraine. They didn't have. And then they tried to recover. It's impossible to recover.
Playing catch up.
Because we have competition and other people already occupy the land that you need.
Quite literally. What's the solution?
The solution, I think that pragmatism is the solution. If we say we can go through the solution just with some words, I think pragmatism, leadership, ownership, love for people, and not for yourself. So we need really people that are ready to sacrifice themselves for the others. And that is a part of leadership. Not just, as we say, give service, you have to give yourself if you want to recover. It's never too late if you have strong leaders, people that can fight, not for themselves, for the others. And competencies. And if you don't have competence, try to recover the right competence, to get the right competence to achieve what you want with passion, with love, and trustability. We have to create a different relationship between institution, companies, and population that they don't
there's
trust.
No trust.
They don't trust us. They don't trust anybody because they don't get any clear view about what is going to happen. So I think that everything we can change everything because it's true that the other are stronger at the moment, but you know we can be stronger. But if we go through this kind of stuff that are essential for a country, we are not a country, but we are a community. So the sense of community is essential.
So transparency is
absolutely
key.
Interest for the other. When I talk about love, it looks strange, but the sense of a community is based on love. There is no differences. French, German, Italian, Spanish, there is no difference. There is a community, European community that need to progress without dogmatism, without ideology, but a sense of community that we have to recover.
Claudio, it's wonderful to have you. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you.